Good morning, everyone. Myself Kuhu Sarkar. I hope you are doing well. So today I'm going to start a new series which named Literary Criticism. So let's start. What is criticism? So I have taken the definition from Habib and which said our English word criticism derives from the ancient Greek terms krites, meaning judge. Perhaps the first type of criticism was that which occurred in the process of poetic creation itself. In composing his poetry, a poet would have made certain judgments about the themes and techniques to be used in his verse, about what his audience was likely to approve and about his relationship to his predecessors in the oral or literary tradition. So, what is criticism? The term criticism derives from the Greek word term krites, which mean judge. Mean if you are judging something, if you are judging a literary work, in our daily life we always used to do judging or criticizing something like which is bad and which is good and how we can improve this. So like this, when a poet criticize his own work to improve it, it is called criticism. And afterwards, another person can judge or criticize another's work. It is also called criticism. So nowadays, what is criticism? When you judge some works, when you someone works and to make commentary of their works, and by this commentary they can improve their works. This is called criticism. So let's see the function of criticism. What other says about criticism? So these quotations are important. Sometimes they asked um in exam. So what Dryden said about criticism. First one to use the word criticism. So Dryden was the first one to use the word criticism. In the preface of The State of Innocence, he writes, criticism as it was first instituted by Aristotle was meant a standard of judging well. So, as per Dryden in his The State of Innocence, he writes, criticism, as it was first instituted by Aristotle, was meant a standard of judging well. So, it make a standard of judging well. You can judge well by criticism, right? Let's see the others. What they said about criticism. Webster. Webster's New International Dictionary defines criticism as the art of judging or evaluation with knowledge and propriety the beauties and faults of works of art or literature. So Webster said that the art of judging or evaluating with knowledge. So it evaluate with knowledge and propriety the beauties and faults of work of art of literature. So it shows the faults and also the beauties of the art or literature. This is called criticism as per Webster. In New International Dictionary, he defines criticism like this. Let's see the next one. To Matthew Arnold said about criticism that criticism is a disinterested endeavor to learn and propagate the best that is known and thought in the world. So you know that Matthew Arnold's touchstone theory, touchstone method, where he said that if you want to judge some literary work, you have to use the touchstone method. You have to compare it with the other ancient writers who are very much famous and great writer like Homer, Iliad. So you have to touch their works with your works, and after thereafter you have to criticize it that where it stand. So like this, Matthew Arnold said that you have to first um, detach yourself. Like if I write something but I am your cousin. You are in a relationship with me. So if you say that yes, he is my cousin, I cannot make judgment, I cannot say bad things about his literary work, then you are not really criticize my work, you are not giving good judgment, right? So first you have to disinterested yourself, mean that first you have to detach yourself from me. There you are only a critic and I am just a writer, so you have to criticize my work. Therefore, Matthew Arnold said that criticism is a disinterested endeavor. You have to detach yourself to learn and propagate the best, and you have to give your best that is known and thought in the world. So you have to give your best by judging the literary work. Then T.S. Eliot also said that commentation and exposition of works of art by means of written words. So it is a commentation and exposition of works of art by means of written words. So it is a commentation and exposition of other works by means of written words. So in traditional individual talent also, he said that a writer first have to have a great knowledge about other writings, other writers writings, and after that he can write, and then he can criticize his own work also. And but before that he have a vast knowledge of other writers. Let's say next, that what are the function of criticism. So the function of criticism is to instruct, to enlighten, to judge a work of art and literature. So it have to instruct you, it have to enlighten you. Enlighten mean you have to it have to give you the knowledge that yes, this is wrong and you have to improve here. And to judge a work of art and literature. Training of writers, it train the writers, interpretation and give judgment of literature, and also enlightenment, and it also give you enlightenment. Then there are three forms of literary criticism, and I take it from B. Prasad, where he said that there are three forms of literary criticism, and these forms are: first is legislative criticism, second is aesthetic criticism, and third is descriptive criticism. So what is legislative criticism? Legislative criticism is that form of critical endeavor which lays down rules for the art of writing, largely based on standard works of literature like Greek and Latin. So, what is legislative criticism? It is the form of critical endeavor which lays down rules of art of writing. So, you have to lay down on rule for art of writing, and you have to follow the standard of literature. So, which are the standard of literature? They are Greek and Latin writing. So, example of legislative criticism, these are Elizabethan criticism. So Elizabethan criticism are based on legislative criticism, but you cannot include Philip Sidney here. Let's see the aesthetic criticism. Aesthetic criticism treats literature as an art and independent activity of the mind. So what is aesthetic criticism? It is the independent activity of mind, having an end of its own, which may or may not coincide with that of religion or morality or science or politics. So it not include religion, morality, science or politics here. It is the activity, independent activity, how you feel after writing this, after reading this literature. You cannot include here religion or morality, that it is bad or wrong, bad or good, or science or politics here. You have to you have to think about from your heart, from your mind. It's therefore proves that the nature of the literary art as such, and formulates its theories accordingly. So let's see the example are that Philip Sidney said about this, Dryden also said about this, Edison, Then Coleridge, Walter Pater, and Oscar Wilde, you know that they are very much famous for aesthetic criticism. Walter Pater, Oscar Wilde, I.A. Richard. After that, it is also called that art for art's sake. Art for art's sake movement also based on this, the aesthetic view of literature, like art is only made for art, not religion, not for morality, not for any other commentary in social, for social condition. Art is only for art. Let's see the next criticism, which is descriptive criticism. Descriptive criticism is a study of individual work and therefore of writers or their aims, methods, and effects. So, descriptive criticism, it is a study of individual works. You can study it for individual work and writers' aim, writers' method, and effect. It is called descriptive criticism. And the examples are Ben Jonson's Conversation with Drummond and Dryden's Prefaces. So, Ben Jonson's Conversations with Drummond and Dryden's Prefaces are the example of descriptive criticism. So, let's see the focus of literary criticism. Literary criticism can take different forms and approaches depending on the specific focus and theories employed by critics. Some common types of literary criticism include formalism. This approach focuses on the formal elements of literature such as structure, language, style, and narrative techniques. So, formalism criticism, what they did, they follow only the contents. Formalism and new criticism, what they did, they follow only the structure, the language, the style, the narrative technique which is used in the writing. So they do not follow the biographical element or the historical element of the writing. They only follow that which narrative technique is used, which style is used, which paradox or which new form is used in this literary work. This kind of criticism called formalism or new criticism. Let's see then others. Historical criticism. So, what they did, it seeks to understand a literary work by examining the historical and cultural context in which it was produced. This may include exploring the author's background, societal influence, and the events of the time. So, what is historical criticism? What they seeks to understand a literary work and examining the historical and cultural background. So, they try to see the historical and the cultural background of the literary work, and it may include the author's background, where he came, then societal influence, how much social influence over him and over his work, and the events of the time. This is called historical criticism. Let's see the next, biographical criticism. You know that this approach examines a work of literature in relation to the life and experience of the author. So, if you try to criticize on Rabindranath Tagore works, so what you do that you first read his biography, then what social events happened in his life, and then you try to explore and criticize his work, that yes, in that time he is dealing with this thing. So these are the influence of his work. Therefore, you see the experience and relation of life with his author, exploring how their personal history may have influenced the themes and content of their writing. So let's see the next, structuralism and post-structuralism. So in literary theory also you have to read this, like these approaches analyze the underlying structures and systems within a literary work, often employing theories related to language, symbol, and meaning making. So in structuralism and post-structuralism, they approaches analyze the underlying structure and system within literary work, often employing theories related to language, symbol, and meaning making. How the language is used, how which symbol is used, and how it makes meaning. You know that Saussure, Derrida, Barthes, Strauss, Levi-Strauss, Pierce, all they are structuralist and post-structuralist writers, theorists. So let's see next. There are feminist criticism. It focuses on the representation of women, gender roles, power dynamics in literature, aiming to highlight and challenge gender biases and stereotypes. So, what is feminist criticism? What they focus? They focused on the representation of women, gender roles, power dynamics, how they influence the literary work, and what the aim of their writing, and aiming to highlight the challenge of gender biases and stereotypes. Let's see the next one. Marxist criticism. This approach examines literature through the lens of social and economic class, exploring how power, politics, and capitalism are portrayed and critiqued. So, you know that what is Marxist criticism? Karl Marx, what he said did, he said that you have to focus the social and economic class and exploring how power, politics, and capitalism portrayed in this literary work, and then you have to criticize it. Let's see the next one. These are post-colonial criticism. So in post-colonial criticism, what they did, it analyzed how literature engages with issues of colonialism, imperialism, and the experience of marginalized culture, often emphasizes the voice and perspective of the colonized. So in post-colonial literature criticism, you know that they focus on the imperialism, colonialism, and experience of the marginalized culture, the migrated one, the person who are Orient, and they also focus on Occident or Orient theme also, right? Edward Said and Homike Bhabha also are the major theorists in this area. Let's say the next one. Psychoanalytic criticism. So, what psychoanalytic critics do? This approach draws on theories of psychology, particularly Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis, to explore the unconscious motivation and desire of characters, as well as the psychological dimension of the author's work. So, what they did, they focus on the psychology of the writer, what in which they said that in which psychology is going on within the writer when he writes this writing, and what the unconscious motivation, the subconscious mind and desires of the character when he writes it. So they deal with the psychological dimensions of the authors. And next, literary criticism has a long history that can be traced back to ancient times. The origin of literary criticism can be found in ancient Greece, where philosophers such as Plato, Aristotle, and made a significant contribution to the field. So you know that if I talk about the ancient criticism, literary criticism, the origin of literary criticism, as I told you before, that Aristophanes' frogs had the element of literary criticism, and after that, in Greece, Plato, Aristotle, and others made a great influence on literary criticism. So let's have a bird's eye view one by one, and after that, I am going to finish this lecture. So first is Plato. Plato in his work Republic expressed his view on art and literature. He believed that art should serve a moral and educational purpose. So he believed that art should serve the moral and educational purpose, and criticized poets for their portrayal of immoral and irrational elements in their works. So he just reject poet and he criticized poets for their portrayal of immoral and irrational elements. So when I'm going to teach about the Plato and Republic, I'm going to teach about the mimetic theory and why he reject poets and poetry. Then next, Aristotle. Aristotle, in his work Poetics, provide a systematic analysis of tragedy and epic poetry. So he provided a systematic elements of tragedy and epic poetry. He discussed the elements of plot, character, language, spectacle, and emphasized the importance of catharsis, the purging of emotions through art. So what he did, Aristotle said that yes, poetry is important, and he then analyzed the tragedy and epic poetry, and he also discussed how plot, character, language, spectacle emphasize the important role, to to catharsis, the purging of emotion. So when I'm going to teach about the Aristotle, I'm going to talk about this. Let's see the next one. During the Roman Empire, the Roman poet Horace wrote Ars Poetica, which offered advice of the art of poetry. He emphasized the importance of unity, clarity, avoiding excessive ornamentation. So what he did, he just offered advice on poetry, and he emphasized on importance of unity and clarity and avoiding excessive ornaments. And Longinus also made an important role. So one second. So let's see the others one. In the Middle Ages, literary criticism was often intertwined with religious and moral concerns. Biblical exegesis and commentary were common forms of literary analysis during this period in Middle Ages. Then the Renaissance marked a significant shift in literary criticism. Scholars and writers such as Petrarch, Sir Philip Sidney began to focus on individual works of literature and developed theories about literary composition, style, and aesthetics. Then in 18th century, the rise of the Enlightenment brought about a more systematic and scientific approach to literary criticism. Scholars like Alexander Pope, Samuel Johnson examined literature from a more analytical and critical standpoint, emphasis reason and logic. So in 18th century, Pope and Samuel Johnson did that. Then, in the 19th and 20th century, witnessed the emergence of various schools of literary criticism, including formalism, Marxism, psychoanalysis, structuralism. These approaches brought new perspective and methodologies to the study of literature and expanding the field of literary criticism and diversifying its theories and interpretation. So after that, in 2019 and 20th century, the new schools are coming. They are formalism, Marxism, psychoanalysis, feminism, structuralism, post-structuralism. What they did, they brought a new perspective and methodologies, how to criticize the work, how to analyze the work, how to interpret the work. So that's all for today. So since then, literary criticism has continued to evolve and adapt to the changing culture and intellectual landscapes. It becomes interdisciplinary. So after that, it becomes interdisciplinary field incorporating insights from sociology, psychology, cultural studies, and other disciplines. So after that, it become interdisciplinary, and it include cultural studies, psychology, sociology into the literary criticism, and make it more standard criticism. So that's all I think. Yes, that's all, and thank you for everything. One second. So thank you for your time, and if you like my video, please support me by like, comment and subscribing my channel. And if you have any question, please write in the comment section. And this is just an introductory class, and here you cannot expect much questions from this video. But in my next video, when I'm going to talk about Plato, Aristotle, Longinus, Horace, these writers or critics are very much important for net, set and get, and I will try to bring all the questions from the previous year. And thank you for your time. Have a good day.